15,000 years before the pyramids, before writing, before farming, modern humans already existed almost exactly as we do today. Same brains, same emotions, same capacity for love, humor, and grief. They told stories around fires, they teased each other, they buried their dead with flowers and ornaments, mourning as deeply as we do. In many ways, if you sat one of them down next to you today, cleaned up and dressed the part, you'd never know the difference. But their world was nothing like ours. Between roughly 15,000 and 8,000 BC, humans were spreading across nearly every continent on Earth, and they were not the largest, nor the strongest, nor even close to the most dangerous creatures out there. This was the tail end of the last ice age, and the planet was still home to a menagerie of true giants. Bears larger than grizzlies, sloths the size of elephants, rhinos wrapped in shaggy wool, and packs of hyenas built to crush bone. For thousands of years, our ancestors didn't just coexist with these animals. They hunted them, fled from them, and sometimes died to them. And then, almost all at once, in the blink of a geological eye, these giants vanished. By around 10,000 BC, as the first real human settlements were beginning to rise, most of the great Ice Age megafauna were already gone. This is the story of the beasts that shared our world and the humans who had to survive them. Across Ice Age Europe, one of the most feared residents of any cave system was the cave bear. Weighing up to 1,000 pounds and standing over 3 meters tall on its hind legs, it was significantly larger than any brown bear alive today. Cave bears lived across Europe from roughly 300,000 years ago until they vanished around 24,000 BC, just before our story truly begins, though their empty dens remained a very real hazard for thousands of years after. Imagine this. Your tribe has been walking for days hunting mammoth herds when a storm rolls in, sudden and violent, freezing rain soaking through hides in minutes. Ahead, cut into a limestone hillside, is a cave. Shelter. Your family ducks inside gratefully, shaking off the cold. Then you see it. A shape too large to be anything but trouble, curled at the back of the cave, woken by the noise. It rises. And now you and your band have a choice nobody wants to make: retreat into the storm or stand your ground against something built to kill. Archaeological sites across Europe show that early humans did fight cave bears, sometimes with fire, sometimes with spears, sometimes losing. Cave bear bones bearing the marks of human weapons have been found at sites in Belgium and Romania, suggesting this wasn't a rare occurrence. Sharing a landscape with the cave bear meant treating every dark cave entrance as a potential life or death gamble. Farther east, across the frozen steppes of Eurasia, roamed an animal built for cold like almost nothing else on Earth: the woolly rhinoceros. Covered in thick, shaggy fur and carrying 2 horns, the front one sometimes over a meter long, these rhinos could weigh nearly 2 tons. They thrived across the mammoth steppe from Western Europe to Siberia for hundreds of thousands of years, only disappearing around 8,000 BC, right at the tail end of our window. For the humans sharing this frozen grassland, the woolly rhino wasn't a monster to fear so much as a resource to respect from a distance. Ancient cave paintings, like those found in Chauvet Cave in France, depict woolly rhinos in remarkable, almost affectionate detail, suggesting these animals loomed large in the imagination of the people who lived alongside them, admired as much as hunted. But a 2-ton animal with a meter-long horn charging at speed was not something you approached carelessly. Hunting one likely meant coordinated group tactics, patience, and no small amount of nerve. Cross the Bering Land Bridge into North America, and you'd find an even more terrifying predator: the short-faced bear. Standing up to 3.5 meters tall on its hind legs and weighing as much as 900 kilograms, it had proportionally longer legs than any bear alive today, built more like a giant hyena than a modern grizzly, fast, and possibly capable of running down prey rather than ambushing it. It roamed North America until roughly 9,500 BC. Some researchers have proposed something remarkable: that the sheer density and ferocity of short-faced bears across the interior of North America may have been one of the reasons early human migration into the continent's plains took so long to spread widely. It's a debated hypothesis, not settled fact, but it's a striking idea: a single apex predator potentially reshaping the pace of human expansion across an entire continent. For a small band of early Americans, Encountering a short-faced bear wasn't a fight you sought out. Faster and taller than a cave bear, and possibly a pursuit hunter rather than a lumbering scavenger, it represented one of the deadliest single threats any human could face on the continent. Not every Ice Age giant was a predator. Across the Americas, giant ground sloths grew to extraordinary sizes. Some species, like Megatherium, reached the size of modern elephants, standing up to 6 meters tall when rearing on their hind legs using massive curved claws to pull down branches and dig. These sloths ranged from North America down through South America, and the last of them held on in isolated pockets until perhaps as late as 8,000 BC, with some evidence suggesting even later survival on certain Caribbean islands. For early humans, the giant sloth was less a hunter's nightmare and more a slow-moving giant that still demanded respect. Those claws, evolved for digging and stripping bark, could easily disembowel an attacker. Sites in South America show clear evidence of humans hunting ground sloths, sometimes cornering them in ways that required real coordination and courage, a contest of patience and numbers against raw size and strength. Back across Ice Age Europe and Northern Asia, humans shared the landscape with a different kind of threat entirely. The cave hyena, a larger, far more powerful subspecies of today's spotted hyena, weighing up to 100 kilograms, with bone-crushing jaws strong enough to crack open the femur of a mammoth calf. Cave hyenas lived in tight-knit clans from roughly 500,000 years ago until around 11,000 BC. Unlike solitary bears or ambush predators, hyenas hunted and competed in numbers. Human bands and hyena clans often wanted exactly the same real estate: dry, defensible cave shelters near water and good hunting ground. Excavations across Europe reveal alternating layers of human occupation and hyena occupation at the very same sites, evidence that the two species took turns claiming the same shelter, sometimes across thousands of years. Picture returning to a cave your family used the previous season, only to find it thick with the smell of carrion and echoing with distant whooping calls. A hyena clan has moved in. Reclaiming it wasn't as simple as walking away. A hungry clan could and did test a human band's resolve, probing at the edges of a camp after dark, waiting for any sign of weakness before deciding whether to press their claim or retreat into the shadows. By around 10,000 BC, something remarkable was happening. As the last ice age loosened its grip on the planet and the climate began to warm and shift dramatically, this entire cast of giants, the cave bears, the woolly rhinos, the short-faced bears, the ground sloths, the cave hyenas, began disappearing at a pace never seen before, all within a few thousand years of each other. Scientists still debate exactly why. Climate change reshaping their habitats, human hunting pressure now armed with increasingly sophisticated weapons reaching a tipping point. Most likely, some combination of both arriving at exactly the same time these species could least afford it. And as the great beast vanished, something else was rising to take their place. Around this same period, the first real permanent human settlements began to appear. People who once fled cave bears and competed with hyena clans for shelter in the dark were now building walls, planting crops, and starting to write the first chapters of civilization. The giants that shaped so much of human survival for thousands of years were gone. But the people who had learned to survive them were only just getting started.